Shalom, shalom. Happy Feast of Tabernacles. I'm Brother Palau from Jerusalem Ministry. And I'm going to bring forth a lesson tonight about the Day of Atonement. All right. This is our Wednesday Bible studies right here. And we actually in the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles. Now I'm going to bring forth a lesson tonight, depending on what side of the world you're on. I'm bringing forth a lesson, and it's about the Day of Atonement. And I just wanted to touch on how important the Day of Atonement is. And we just had the Day of Atonement last Friday. Last Friday was the 25th. The Day of Atonement was last Friday on the 25th. So we just had Day of Atonement now, and that was on the 10th day of the seventh month. All right. So now we actually are in the midst of the Feast of Tabernacles, which is actually today. I'm sorry. The Day of Atonement was on the 27th of September. Yeah, I was looking at October. So the Day of Atonement was on the 27th of September, which was on Friday, last Friday, which was actually the 10th day of the seventh month. All right. So now we are in the Feast of Tabernacles, which is today, October the 2nd, which is the 15th day of the seventh month. All right. So this is what we on. Matter of fact, let me pull up the calendar while I'm actually, speaking of this. Let me just pull up the calendar real quick. 1 second. And I hope everybody can see my screen. I hope this doesn't go away. But I'm gonna run through this lesson about the Day of Atonement. All right. All right. So now let's check out. Let me bring up this calendar. So this is the Dead Sea Scrolls calendar. We're in the seventh month. The seventh month. And the seventh month started September 18th all the way until October 17th. All right. So today is the 15th of the seventh month, and we are actually on the like I said, the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles. All right, the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles, and it's actually the first day, and it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. A lot took place. Iran just bombed Israel. They sent over 180 missiles, into Israel. A lot of them, Israel, along with the United States, stopped, those bombs from actually hitting, but a couple of those missiles actually hit. Okay. And this is interesting because last year in the midst, at the end of the feast, towards the end of Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Booths, Hamas attacked Israel. So, and then also on the Feast of Atonement of this year, which was September 27th, Israel, they killed Hezbollah, their head leader, you know. So along with some other things, this would led to Iran to attacking Israel the other day. Right, attacking Israel last night at the beginning of October the 2nd, at the beginning of the 15th day of the seventh month of the Feast of Tabernacles. All right. So I hope y'all can see my screen. I'm not sure if people can see it, but let's go. Let me go back to this information. So let's go. Let's get into the Day of Atonement. So we're going to talk about how important the Day of Atonement is, and why it's important, and why we should be following it, and how the Ebionites follow it, how the early church followed the Day of Atonement. All right, because that's very, very important to understand how the early church followed these holy days, because we're trying to do a replica of the early church. That's what we should be following. That's the foundation that they left, that we should be following. And even though the early church has been hidden and almost wiped out of history, but all praises to the Most High, the truth will get revealed in these last days. All right, so now let's let's get into it. So I'm in the book of Jubilees, and we're going to talk about the origin of the Feast of Tabernacles, the origin of it, where it come from, you know, why why it's so important. All right, so these are the things we're going to be talking about. So we're going to talk about, like I said, the origin of it, why it's important, and we also going to be going into information about do you supposed to fast according to the law of God on the Day of Atonement, you know, or in Hebrew it's called Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur. I may be saying it wrong. Well, I know I'm saying it wrong. But on Yom Kippur, on that day, do we supposed to fast according to the law? Um, and then also, what day of the week is the Day of Atonement? What day of the week is Yom Kippur on? What day of the week does it fall on according to the Dead Sea Scrolls? All right, according to the early church. And then also, how did the Ebionites, how did the early church celebrate the day of fasting? How did they celebrate the Day of Atonement? All right. So we're going to go into it. We're going to go into this information. So we're in the book of Jubilees, chapter 34. I'm going to start at verse 10. I'm going to read 10 through 19. Verse 10. And in the 7th year of this week, he sent Joseph to learn about the welfare of his brothers from his house to the land of Shechem, and he found them in the land of Dothan. And they dwelt treacherously with him and formed a plot against him to slay him. But changing their minds, they sold him to Ishmaelite merchants, and they brought him down into Egypt, and they sold him to Potiphar, the eunuch of Pharaoh, the chief of the cooks, priests of the city of Elu. Verse 12. And the sons of Jacob slaughtered a kid and dipped the goat of Joseph in the blood and sent it to Jacob, their father, on the 10th of the 7th month. And he mourned all that night, for they had brought it to him in the evening, and he became feverish with mourning for his death. And he said, an evil beast have devoured Joseph, and all the members of his house mourned with him that day, and they were grieving and mourning with him all that day. And his sons and his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted for his son. And on that day, Bella heard that Joseph had perished, and she died mourning him. And she was living in Quafatif, and Dinah also his daughter died after Joseph had perished. All there came these 3 mornings upon Israel in 1 month, and they buried Bela over against the tomb of Rachel, and Dinah also his daughter they buried there. Now this is now they mourning over Joseph. So this is where the Day of Atonement come from. It comes from the mourning of Joseph. And not only Joseph, but also Bella died, one of the handmaids, and then also his daughter Dinah died also, according to the book of Jubilees. And all these, and this is where they say death comes in threes. This is where this comes from, but this is and then it so happened that, on the Day of Atonement, Israel murdered, they killed they assassinated Hezbollah leader, which is, I mean, it's fighting going on, but this is our prophecy that's happening. This is our prophecy. So now, but the Day of Atonement, these holy days is a marker for where we at in prophecy also, and where we at in times and what's going on in times. So now, I'm at verse 17. And he mourned for Joseph 1 year and did not cease. For he said, let me go down to the grave mourning for my son. For this is reason it is ordained for the children of Israel that they should afflict themselves, which is talking about fast, and I'm going to go into that, which is they should afflict themselves on the 10th of the 7th month on the day that the news which made him weep for Joseph came to Jacob his father, that they should make an atonement for themselves thereon with a young goat on the 10th of the 7th month, once a year for their sins. They have grieved the afflictions of their father regarding Joseph, his son. So, and in verse 19, and this day has been ordained that they should grieve thereon for their sins, for all their transgression, for all their errors, so that they might cleanse themselves on that day once a year. All right, so this is where this comes from. It comes from this understanding, right here. This is the origin of it. All right. So now with the origin of it, now we have our understanding. But now you can atone for without dealing with sacrifices, and that's what the early church understood. All right, they understood this. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go into this. And hold on, what I mean, you can atone without I'm talking about sacrificing animals, because you make yourself the sacrifice, you afflict yourself, you fast, you pray to the Most High, and you ask for forgiveness, for the children of Israel and for forgiveness of us, um, and I'm gonna do a whole lesson about sacrificing and understanding the origin of it and where it come from and how it came and how the early church feel about it and what's really going on, what's the truth about sacrificing, you know. So now, let's it's because this could have been read without having sacrifices in it. Let me read verse 18. For this is the reason it is ordained for the children of Israel that they should afflict themselves on the 10th of the 7th month, on the day that the news which made him weep for Joseph came to Jacob his father. They shall make an atonement for themselves thereon. It could start right there on, on the 10th of the 7th month, once a year for their sins. Like, for they have grieved the affection of their father regarding Joseph, his son. Like, atoning with a young goat doesn't have to be there. And we will go into a whole lesson about sacrifice. All right. But we're going to show, according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, how the early church celebrated the Day of Atonement, because they didn't do sacrifices. All right. So now let's let's go to the book of Leviticus. Let's check this out. So now we went into the origin of the Day of Atonement, where it comes from. And it comes from Jacob mourning for his son Joseph from the bad news he received, and then also mourning, but also not just for Jacob, but for Bella and for his daughter Dana or Dina. All right. So now we're gonna talk about, let's finish with some origin of it and why, because it was ordained with Jacob, for Jacob, that we celebrate this. It was ordained by the Most High to Jacob that we celebrate this. Now let's get the law that was given to Moses, you know, on Mount Sinai. Let's check this out about this day, the Day of Atonement. So, and it says, let me make it bigger. So, the Day of Atonement, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 26. And it reads, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement, and it shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. So, like I said, we don't even have to read the sacrificing animal part. It could have just stopped right there. And you shall afflict your souls. Period. Period. Verse 28. Ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. For whosoever, for whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that day, he shall be cut off from among his people. All right. Verse 30. And whosoever so it be that does any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy among his people. Ye shall do no matter of work, it shall be a statute forever throughout your generation and all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at evening. From until the evening shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. So from the evening of the 9th day all the way to the evening of the 10th day, this how you celebrate this feast. All right, this is how you celebrate this feast. So, and it's a feast based on not because we're eating, it's a feast because it's a holy day. All right. So we celebrate this Sabbath, you know what I'm saying? We celebrate this holy day from evening to evening, from the ninth, on the evening of the ninth, all the way to the evening, all the way to the 10th. All right. And according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, that will always be Thursday sundown to Friday sundown. The Day of Atonement will always be on Friday, what the Greco-Roman would call Friday. It will always be on the 6th day of the week. All right. So now, since we touched on that, let me touch on like the word afflict, because the word afflict, it comes from a Hebrew word H6031. I'm gonna read it right here. H6031. Hebrew 6031. And it is to depress literally or figuratively, transitively or intransitively. It means mistake, abase self, afflict, answer, chasten self, deal hardly with that, with yourself. Defile, exercise force, gentleness, humble, hurt, ravishing, mistake, submit, weaken in any wise. So what you do is you humble yourself on this day. All right. You humble yourself on this day. And how do you do that? By fasting, actually. And I'm gonna show you that this word is symbolic to fasting. And I'm gonna show you that the early church, they actually fast on this day. All right. So now I'm gonna show that. Let me go to Leviticus 25 real quick. Leviticus chapter 25. I'm gonna read verse 9. And thou shalt cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall ye make the trumpets sound throughout all your land. So we're going to blow the trumpet. The trumpet blow. We sounding the alarm. We blowing the trumpet, letting people know. Okay, and then we actually approaching on the year of Jubilee. We actually approaching that 7th year. Then next year, the 7th year, and that's going to be a whole, discussion on the calendar and what we're supposed to actually do on the 7th year. Some people are going to do some other things, but we're going to do the 7th year based off what we're going to present based off the information that God is letting us understand through the Dead Sea Scrolls and through other records that we have. So, because with that 7th year, that 7th year is important because that 7th year is going to keep us in line with the seasons all the time. All right. It's important. And on that 7 years, a lot happened. It's called really the 7-year release. That's what it's called. And even the calendar does a 7-year release. All right. It does a week release, which is in Jubilee, which is 7 years. 1 week is 7 years. But we will talk about that later on. And this is how the Ebionites celebrated the calendar. This is how they kept the calendar. This is how they keep the thing. This is because all the information was within the Dead Sea Scrolls and within just putting the pieces together. All right. So now, it's telling you we should blow the trumpet. So like this whole 7 month is you blowing the trumpet a lot this 7 month. We blew the trumpet on the first day of the 7 month. We blew the trumpet on the atonement. We even gonna blow the trumpet, on the Feast of Tabernacles also, which we in the midst of it right now. We in the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles. We're gonna do a lesson on that this Shabbat. We're gonna on this weekly Shabbat, we're gonna do a lesson on the Feast of Tabernacles because we're going to still be in the midst of the Feast of Tabernacles. And we're going to see what's going to play out within the world right now, what's going on with Iran or with Iran, people say Iran or Iran, with Iran and Israel right now. We're going to see what's going on. We're going to see what's going on. So now, all right, but let's go back to this afflict yourself because it said the same thing in Leviticus chapter 25, verse 9. It say, um, you know, it say on the seventh month in the day of atonement, you shall make a trumpet sound throughout your land. So we're gonna blow the trumpet throughout this land. Verse 10, and you shall hallow the 15th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession. You shall return every man unto his family. So this is part of the 7 year, but and 7 years is symbolic with the seventh month. All right. That's why it's important for us to blow the trumpet on the Day of Atonement, also. And then get people the understanding of the Day of Atonement, the true understanding, the Ebionite understanding, how they understood it. Because they understood it the original way. All right. So now let's going back to this word atonement. That's what I want to talk about. The word not the word atonement, but the word atonement itself is Kippur. That's what we just talking Yom Kippur. So atonement, that's what it means. You get expedited. I mean not expedited, but you get not expedited, but you the Most High will forgive. It's kind of like a forgive, thing like that, pretty much to give you a forgiveness on that day of atonement, to give you a forgiveness on that day. You know, the Most High will always will get you out of that situation. He will forgive you out of that situation if you turn to him, if you atone to him, if you afflict yourself to him. I mean, let's go to this next part. Let's check out I'm gonna go to the book of Psalms because we're gonna talk about this word afflict, right? This word afflict. 1 second, hold on. All right, so we're gonna go into this word afflict. Now let me go to the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms. Let's see the book of Psalms. We're gonna go to the book of Psalms real quick. 1 second. So the book of Psalms, chapter 35. Chapter 35 and verse 13. Verse 13. So let me read this real quick. Verse 13. So in the book of Psalms, verse 13, chapter 35, verse 13. But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled my soul with fasting and prayer returned into my own bosom. So that humble is anah. It's the same word as afflict. It's 60:31. It's anah. It's the same word as afflict, which is Hebrew 60:31. So you humble your soul. How do you humble yourself? With fasting. You humble yourself with fasting. That's how you do it. You humble yourself with fasting. So I'm letting you know. So that's that right there, letting you know that fasting is is symbolic to humbling your soul. Okay. Yeah, that's how you humble your soul. You humble your soul with fasting. All right. Now, let's see. Let's get some more information. Let's go to the book of Ezra. Let's go to the book of Ezra. Let's see. Ezra chapter 8. Ezra chapter 8, verse 21. Ezra chapter 8, verse 21. And it reads, Then I proclaimed a fast there at the river of Abba, that we might afflict ourselves before our God, to seek of him a right way for us and for our little ones and for all our substance. So afflict ourselves is the same word as H6031, which is Anah, which is Anah, H60, Hebrew 6031, which is mean. So how do you afflict yourself? That he afflicted, he proclaimed a fast. He proclaimed a fast. He proclaimed a fast. That's how you afflict your soul. You afflict your soul by proclaiming a fast. All right. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. So now, 1 second. So, like I said, going back to the word, atonement, because the word atonement itself, like I said, is dealing with, making amends with something. I want to get back to that because I want people to understand the understanding of atonement. 1 second. Because what's going on with the word atonement? The Most High, expiation. The word expiation. That's the word I wanted to get to. Expiation, because he would expedite you, like he would get you out of that situation. He would give you the Most High would ex expiation. He would expedite you out of that situation, and that's how I'm saying it correctly. Let me see how that's, but. But that's the understanding of it, because atonement is important. But you don't have to atone by sacrificing. You don't have to. And the Most High will expiate you out of this situation. He will expiate you out of this situation. All right. So now that's what I want to get into. And it's dealing with fasting, because how do you afflict yourself so the Most High can see that you are sorry, that you are atoning, that you are asking for expiation, that you are asking for forgiveness? How will he see that? How will he see that you are asking for something that you are guilt for, that you was wrongdoing for, that you want amends for? How will he know that you want that if you don't see that you afflicting your soul? And how do you afflict your soul? How do you do anah? Fast. You fast. Okay, you fast. All right. So now let's keep going. Let's keep going. So now we're gonna go into the Dead Sea Scrolls. Let's check out the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right. Let's check this out. So we're gonna go into the Dead Sea Scrolls. We're gonna see how did the early church, celebrate atonement. How did they do it? How did they fast? Because some people say, oh, it's fasting, it's not just doing something. You don't have to not just eat food and water. That's true. You can fast from not doing something. Fasting in itself just means, not doing something really. You're not partaking in that. You're not doing something. You're fasting from that for a time. But how did the church actually do this? Did they just celebrate it, or did they actually, sustain themselves from food and water, I'm saying, for a whole day? How did they do this? How did they really do this? So now let's do this. Let's go to we in the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right, the Penguin edition. This is the commentary of Habakkuk, and this is on page 515. This is the commentary of Habakkuk, and this is the early church commentary on how they interpreted Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 15. This is their commentary. Now, this is Habakkuk 2, verse 15, and it says, Woe to him who causes his neighbor to drink, who pours out his venom to make them drink, that he may gaze on their feast. And then the interpretation this concerns the wicked priest who pursued the teacher of righteousness to the house of his exile, that he might confuse him with his venomous fury, and that And at the time appointed for rest, for the day of atonement, he appeared before them to confuse them and to cause them to stumble on the day of fasting, their Sabbath of repose. All right. So according to this, the wicked priest, he had pursued the teacher of righteousness and caused them to stumble on the day of fasting. According to Habakkuk, caused them to drink. You cause them to actually, not keep the fast the way they're supposed to. So according to the Jerusalem church, how they keep the fast is they keep the fast by not eating and drinking anything. All right, not eating and drinking anything. But the teacher of righteousness, he was pursued by the wicked priests and caused them, to drink something happened to where they was famished. They may got into a tussle or something may happen to where the teacher of righteousness he needed to it called the wicked woe to the wicked that caused his neighbor to drink, who pours out his venom to make them drink, that he may gaze on their feast. He may disturb their feast. All right, so now, interesting. All right, so now let's check out some more about the Day of Atonement, the Day of Fast, how the Ebionites, how the early church celebrated it. Let's go to page 382. We're gonna go back up. 382 in the Penguin edition. All right. Let's see. $382. 1 second. 1 second. All right, so this is the prayers for festivals right here. Prayer for festivals. This is page 382. Let's read about the Day of Atonement. All right, and it reads, prayer for the Day of Atonement. Remember, O Lord, the feast of mercies and the time of return. Thou hast established it for us as a feast of fasting and an everlasting precept, that thou knowest the hidden things and the things revealed. So on this day, things would be revealed on this day, especially within the 7th month, things would be revealed, will start being revealed to us, especially in the last days, on these days. So we pray to the Most High for allowing us to have a feast of fasting, where we have a feast of afflicting our soul, and this is important. This is an everlasting precept, and thou knowest the hidden things that the things revealed. All right. So now let's keep going to some information. So we can go to page 352 in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Penguin edition by Giza Vermes. All right. Let's check this out. So we on page 351. Page 351. 1 second. 1 second. All right. Page 351. Now, I'm gonna just read. This is the feast. This is the feast. This is the first year of the feast right here. This is the first year of the feast. It's a fragment, 6 years of the feast, because the calendar is on a 6-year cycle. Okay, it's on a 6-year cycle. And this 6-year cycle, the feast they land on the same day of the week throughout this whole 6-year cycle. Because on the 7th year, it's a 7-year release. And we're gonna talk about that. We'll have a whole lesson about the 7th year and how the early church, reconciled this situation with it being 365.225 days when they on the 364-day calendar. All right. Because that 7th year is important. It keeps us in line with the seasons. So now, but it's a 6-year cycle. Why is only a 6-year? Why they didn't find a 7-year cycle? Because on the 7th year, something different happens. All right. But showing this 6 year cycle, on the 6 year cycle, every day, every year, the Day of Atonement on the same day, right here on the first year, on the sixth day in the week of July. We're talking about in the week of the priest because they switch up every week. The Day of Atonement is in the seventh month. So on the sixth day of the week, the sixth day of the week, is in the week of Jer Jereb. Jereb. He's a priest. Is on the week of on his week. The Day of Atonement falls on the sixth day of the week. All right. Let's go to the second year. Okay. This is the second year. Second year, right? Second year of the feast. And the Day of Atonement is on the sixth day of the week. It's on Malachi week this year. Malachi, he has that week. Okay. The Day of Atonement is on the sixth day of the week. Sundown on the ninth day at evening, all the way to sundown on the 10th day at evening. The Day of Atonement on the sixth day of the week. Now, the third year, the Day of Atonement is on the sixth day of the week, in the week of Yeshua or Joshua. Okay, so that's the third year. On the fourth year is on the week of Hapa, was on the sixth day of the week, on the week of Hupa, the Day of Atonement, on the sixth day of the week. All right. On the fifth year, the Day of Atonement on the sixth day of the week. And Hazir, Day of Atonement, Hazir, on the sixth day of the week. And in the sixth year, the last year of the 6 year cycle, the Day of Atonement is on the sixth day of the week, in the week of Jachin. The Day of Atonement is on the sixth day of the week. All right, so now letting you see that it never changed. It never changed. So from Thursday sundown all the way to Friday sundown, that's the Day of Atonement. All right, according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, that's how the early church followed it. Right. That's why when you read information, it show you that the early church, I think it's like in the Didache, it tell you that the early church, they fasted on Wednesdays and Fridays, if I'm not mistaken. It say Wednesdays and Fridays in the Didache. All right, which is a Jewish Christian or a Hebrew Christian record. All right. So now, let's check this out. So now, and I should try to pull that up on the days the dedicate with, I don't have enough time, but because I know it's something to do with Wednesday, and I think it's Friday also. You know what I'm saying? But let's see. Now that we touched on that, now let's go. I want to check out the encyclopedia about the Ebionites, encyclopedia.com. What does it say about the Ebionites? So I'm in paragraph 3 on encyclopedia.com on the Ebionites. And it reads, the Ebionites were Jews who accepted Jesus of Nazareth as the Messiah, Christ. While continuing to maintain their identity as Jews, they cultivated relations with Jews as well as Christians, and they were welcomed by neither. They followed the Jewish law. They followed the law, insisting on circumcision, keeping the Sabbath, and celebrating the Jewish festivals like Yom Kippur, like the day of fasting, the day of fasting, Passover, observing the dietary laws, not dealing with pork, and other Jewish customs. They reputed the Apostle Paul because of his denigration of the Jewish law. They saw Jesus as the prophet and an exceptional man in the line of Jewish prophets, as described in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 15. And they denied the virgin birth. They justified their way of life by appealing to the example of Jesus' life, of the Messiah life. He was circumcised, he observed the Sabbath, celebrated the Jewish festivals, and he taught all the precepts of the law should be observed. They also celebrated The Easter, when they say Easter, talking about the resurrection. They celebrate that on the same day as the Jews celebrated Passover. They kept the because on the first day of the week during Passover week, that's the day that the Messiah rose from the dead. Okay, which is the Saturday evening, which is Saturday evening, early Sunday morning, which is the first day of the week. All right, so they keep that once a year. They keep that once a year during the Passover. And they held the city of Jerusalem in high esteem. All right, so now. But Yom Kippur, they kept reason. See, Yom Kippur is connected with the Ebionites. It could have been either other holiday. They could have said Tabernacle. They could have said Pentecost, which they do keep. Pentecost is very important. All these holy days is important to the early church. The Dead Sea Scrolls let you know that. All right, and even with history, let you understand that the Ebionites, holy days, these festivals is very important, especially Yom Kippur. All right. And we're going to see that correlation within the Dead Sea Scrolls, how the Day of Atonement, the day of fasting is important to this sect at the Dead Sea Scrolls, at the Dead Sea. All right. So now let's check that out. Let's see some correlations. So let's go to page 134 in the Dead Sea Scrolls. We're going to the Damascus document. So you can find this on page 134 in the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is the Damascus document. Or you can go to the Zedekiah fragment, chapter 18. The Zedekiah fragment, chapter 8, verse 14 through 15. All right. So we'll go to the Damascus document, or what scholars also call the Zedekiah fragment. All right. And the Zedekiah fragment is chapter 8, verse 14 through 15. But in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Damascus document, it's on page 134 in the Giza Vermes Penguin edition. Right? Let me pull it up. 1 second. All right, so we in the Damascus document. 1 second. Let me make things a little bigger. So we in the Damascus document. I'm going to page 34, which is chapter 8 in the Zedekiah fragment. Chapter 8, verse 14 through 15. Now we're on page 134 in the Zedekiah fragment, in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I'm gonna start at column. This is paragraph 15, I think, section 15. I don't know the column, but it's on page 134. And it reads, none of those brought into the covenant shall enter the temple to light his altar in vain. They shall bar the door, for as much as God said, who among you will bar his door? You shall not light my altar in vain. Malachi 1, chapter, verse 10. They shall take care to act according to the exact interpretation of the law during the age of wickedness. They shall separate from the sons of Pit, and shall keep away from the unclean riches of wickedness acquired by vow or anathema, or from the temple treasure. They should not rob the poor of his people, to make of widows their prey, and fatherless their victim. They shall distinguish between clean and unclean. They shall proclaim the difference between holy and profane. They shall keep the Sabbath day according to the exact interpretation, and the feast, and the day of fasting according to the finding of the members of the new covenant in the land of Damascus. They shall set aside the holy things according to the exact teachings concerning them. They shall love each man his brother as himself. They shall secure the poor, the needy, and the stranger. All right, so this is the church. This is the church. So they're gonna love. That's why the Messiah say, "Oh, they ask the Messiah, what's the greatest law?" You love thyself, love yourself, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Okay, and this is their motto. All right, they shall love each man his brother as himself, and they shall secure the poor and the needy and the stranger. This is the church. All right, but the church, they keep the holy days is so important to them. Just like we just read about the Ebionites, it's so important to them. All right, they keep the exact interpretations. Okay, the Sabbath day and the feast, even the day of atonement, the day of fasting. They keep these days at the exact interpretation because it's important to them. The day of fasting is important to them. They magnify that in their own writings. The day of fasting, it's important to them. The day of atonement. All right. So now let's keep going. So they did not sacrifice animals, okay, on the Day of Atonement. They fast, they prayed, they mourn, you know, they did those things on the day of fasting. All right. They kept the day of fasting a certain way. Let's talk about how they kept it. All right, let's get some understanding on how they kept it. We're gonna correlate it with some things that's being said within the Greco-Roman gospel that the Messiah is quoting, because the lines that's directly with some things that aligns directly with in the Dead Sea Scrolls, letting you know that whatever source that Matthew and Luke had, it had to be, the records of the Dead Sea Scrolls, what they call the Q Gospel. That those some of those records, whatever the Q Gospel was, the Q Gospel got their information from the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right. So now, or is the Q Gospel is very synonymous with the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right. So now let's go into this information about how they kept the Day of Atonement, how they kept it. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Let's go to page 104. Because since they're not sacrificing animals, since they're not doing that, how was they keeping the Day of Atonement? How was they keeping it? Let's see. All right, so now let's do 104. We're in the Dead Sea Scrolls, page 104. It's 104. Let's read it. Let's see. Let's see. Where do I want to start at? Hmm. Hold on. Let me pull out my book real quick. Let me see where I want to start at. Page 104. I don't have much time. All right, here we go. So let's page 104. I'm gonna start at the top right here. Now let's say this is how they supposed to do. But he shall, so this is when you enter the community. Let me start right here. They shall practice truth right here. They shall practice truth, humility and common, and justice and uprightness and charity and modesty in all their ways. No man shall walk in the stubbornness of his heart, so he strays after his heart and eyes and evil inclination, but he shall circumcise in the community the foreskin of evil inclination and of stiffness of neck, that they may lay at the foundation of truth for Israel, for the community of an everlasting covenant. So not this community, not do they only just circumcise their foreskin, but they circumcise the foreskin of evil, within them. They circumcise the foreskin of their heart also. All right, this is where they had this understanding. This is not just from Paul. See, but not only do they circumcise their evilness, the foreskin of their evilness, but they circumcise their foreskin also. All right. So they shall atone for all those in Aaron who have freely pledged themselves to holiness, and for those in Israel who have freely pledged themselves to the house of truth, and for those who joined themselves to live in community and to take part in the trial and judgment and condemnation of all those who transgress the precepts. So they atone for all those in Aaron. So how do they atone? How do they do this though? How do they atone? How do they celebrate the Day of Atonement? How do they atone? Now, baptism is a way that they do atone, but they don't baptize on the Day of Atonement. They do something different on the Day of Atonement. All right. But baptism is one of the initiations to be a part of this covenant, to be a part of the new covenant. You have to get baptized. But on the Day of Atonement, how do they atone? How do they atone? All right. How do they atone? We're going to talk about how they celebrate the atonement. We going into it right now. So now let's see. Let's go to page 108. 108. So page 108 to 109. Let me start at the bottom right here. Now, this is the 12 apostles, okay? The 12 leaders. So in the council of the community, there shall be 12 men and 3 priests. So you got the 12 apostles, then you also got 3 men who are like the pillars. That what you see what Paul say are James, John, and Peter. He say Cephas, which these people, which Peter is Cephas. He's saying these people are like seems to be pillars. Seems to be pillars. So you got the 12 apostles, then you got 3 pillars, okay? All right. So in the community, so the council of the community, there should be 12 men and 3 priests, perfectly versed in all that is revealed of the law, whose work shall be truth, righteousness, justice, loving kindness, and humility. They shall preserve the faith in the land with steadfast and meekness, and shall atone for sin by the practice of justice and by suffering the sorrows of affliction. They shall walk with all men according to the standard of truth and the rule of time. All right. So they atone. So the apostles, the leadership of the community that the Messiah left behind, this is how they are going to atone. How they're going to atone? They're going to atone, for the sins by the practice of justice, by the suffering, the sorrows of affliction. How they're going to be fasting. This is how they're gonna fast. I'm gonna show you this. That's how they're gonna do it. And it's not going to be by sacrificing animals. I'm going to show you. Let's keep going. When these are in Israel, the council of the community shall be established in truth. It shall be an everlasting plantation, a house of holiness for Israel, an assembly of supreme holiness for Aaron. They shall be witness to the truth at the judgment. So just like you read, oh, what they asked the Messiah, the disciples asked the Messiah, what do we get in the kingdom? He said, you will be able to judge, the children of Israel at those days. You will be sitting, you will be witness throughout. You're gonna be my witness throughout the world, and you're gonna be judged. You're gonna judge. You're gonna sit on thrones and judge the 12 tribes. All right. This is what you see. They shall be witness to the truth at the judgment, and shall be the elect of goodwill, who shall atone for the land and pay to the wicked their reward. It shall be it shall be that tried while the precious cornerstone, whose foundation shall neither rock nor sway in their place. All right. So this is what they're doing. All right. This is what they're doing. They are those the they are let's see how they're going to atone. Let's check this out. It shall be most holy dwelling for Aaron with everlasting knowledge of the covenant of justice, and shall offer up sweet fragrance. It shall be a house of, perfection and truth in Israel, that they may establish a covenant according to the everlasting precepts. So they're gonna offer up a sweet fragrance of what? Let's find out. But let me keep reading. It say, and they shall be an agreeable offering. What's this agreeable offering is? Atoning for the land and determining the judgment of wickedness. And they shall be no more iniquity when they have been confirmed for 2 years in perfection of the way and the foundation of the community. They shall be set apart as holy within the council of men, and the interpreter shall not conceal from them out of fear, out of the spirit of apostasy, any of those things hidden from Israel which have been discovered by him. So it won't be no spirit of fear, no apostasy, nobody going against the law, all that, but they would be atoning for what would they be atoning for? And then they say they are preparing the way of the wilderness. This is their community. This is the church. All right. They preparing the way. So now, but what would they be atoning for? How would they atone? Let's go to the next page. Let's go to page 110. How would they atone? How would they atone? Page 110. Let's see. How would they atone right here? Let's start right here. When these become members of the community of Israel, according to all the rules, they shall establish the spirit of holiness, according to everlasting truth. They shall atone for the guilty rebellion and for the sins of unfaithfulness, that they may obtain loving kindness for the land without the flesh of holocaust and the fat of sacrifice. So they're going to atone without the flesh of holocaust and the fat of sacrifice. And prayer rightly offered shall be an acceptable fragrance of righteousness and a perfection of way of a delectable free will offering. At that time, the men of the community shall set apart a house of holiness in order that they may be united to the most holy things, and a house of community for Israel, for those who walk in perfection. The sons of Aaron alone shall command in matters of justice and property, and every word concerning the men of the community shall be determined according to their word. So this is how these people, the leaders of the group, which is the 12, this is how they establishing atonement for them. They're gonna do it all by prayer. Okay, prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting with without the flesh of holocaust and the fat of sacrifice, but their prayer would be would be acceptable fragrance of righteousness. All right. All right, so now let's get some more information. Let's go to page, we almost finished. Let's go to page 157. Mm-hmm. After this we just got two more things and then we done. Page 157 of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Let's see. Let's do it. So I hope people get an understanding on how the Ebionites celebrated, the feast of atonement, the Day of Atonement, the feast of fasting. It's the feast of fasting, the day of fasting. How did the early church celebrate it? Without sacrificing, without a scapegoat, without that. One second. Let this thing catch up. page 157. So here we go right here. Thing right there. There we go. All right, so we're on page 157. This is more extra fragments of the Damascus document. Some extra fragments that's not in the Zedekiah fragment. All right, now I'm on page 157. I'm gonna read fragment 6 and fragment 7. All right, but let me start at the bottom right here. When there shall be in the council of community 15 men. So it's letting you know that it's 15 men. It's 12. You got 12 leaders, and then you got 3 pillars. All right, it's 15 men. 15 men. Perfectly versed in all that is revealed of the law and the prophets. The council of the community shall be established in truth. They shall be witnesses to the truth at the judgment, and elect of goodwill. They shall be an agreeable offering, atoning on the behalf of the land. For all iniquity, he shall terminate the ages of injustice. So we know how they're going to atone. They're going to atone, you know, without the holocaust of flesh, without the sacrifice of flesh, without the sacrifice of meat. Okay, that's how they're going to atone, by prayer and fasting. I'm going to keep reading. On the day of Sabbath, no man from the seed of Aaron shall sprinkle water of purification. They shall not bathe or wash their garments on the great day and fast. On the day of atonement, he shall go outside his town to gaze. An animal may go to the distance of 2,000. No man shall eat a blemished animal within 30 stanza from the sanctuary. So if somebody is gonna eat, it can't be something blemished. You know what I'm saying? It has to be something. If somebody gonna do that, but they not doing that, What we're reading is something that's based off the law, but the church understood things certain differently based off certain laws because of the understanding of the Messiah. But one thing I wanted to read out of here was important is that on the day of fasting, it's saying they shall not bathe or wash their garments on the great day and fast on the day of atonement. So this is why when we go to let me go to this information right here. This is why when we go to Matthew chapter 6, verse 16. This is coming from some information, that some Jewish Christian information right here. This Matthew chapter 6, verse 16 through 18 is about fasting. Moreover, when you fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigured their face, that they may not appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thy head and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in the secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. So this is actually law that no like somebody that's a priest in their community shouldn't you don't supposed to wash, you know bathe yourself or wash your garments on that day of fast. But the Greco-Romans got the Messiah saying that a certain way, you know letting you know that is something, a part of the law, part of the original way. But why do they have the Messiah saying something different, saying by thou, when thou fastest, anoint thy head and wash thy face? When the early church, the Ebionites, they understood the law a certain way, and they understood they're not doing baptisms on that day. That's what it's talking about. When it's talking about wash that face, it's talking about they're not doing baptisms on that day. Don't so you know you can put some oil on or whatever, but you don't have to baptize. Wash your face, but don't don't do the baptism, don't do the mikvah. Okay, this is what it's talking about. No man of the sea shall sprinkle water of purification, that mikvah, that baptism. They should not bathe or wash their garments on that great day and fast on the day of atonement. So they should not wash, they should not bathe or wash their garments on the great day and fast on the day of atonement. All right. So they should not wash on that great day and fast on that great day. So that they should not wash their garments on the great day and fast on the day of atonement. So they should not wash their garments on that great day, and they should fast on the Day of Atonement. All right. So these are the things that they shouldn't do. They should do. They should not bathe. They should not go through the mikvah, which is talking about the mikvah. That's why it's talking about that wash your face. It's talking about don't. It's like when the Messiah is saying wash your face and stuff like that. Appear to me like you're not fasting, but don't go through the mikvah. Like the Dead Sea Scrolls tell you, don't go through the. You don't have to. Don't go through the mikvah. Don't wash your God. Don't go through the mikvah, but still present yourself. Still present yourself like like you're not fasting. You can do that. You can do that. Now that's how you understand. You know what the Messiah was talking about, because you will see this, that even on the priests they supposed to they supposed, according to how we see it in Leviticus, they supposed to wash themselves, and then they go into the holies of holies on that Day of Atonement and stuff like that. But according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, you don't wash yourself. You don't go through the mikvah. Yeah, wash your face, like the Messiah say, but you don't go through the mikvah though. You wash that face. That's it. You don't go through the mikvah. All right. You don't do the water of purification. All right. You don't do that on the day of fasting. Day of fasting is important. Now let's check. Let's get some more information. This is the last thing right here. This is Isaiah. Get some more understanding. This is Isaiah chapter 58, verse 1. Try that verse 1. Cry out loud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet. Okay, and if this is the during the Day of Atonement, during the Feast of Trumpets, during this seventh month. Lift thy voice like a trumpet and show my people their transgression and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching to God. Wherefore we have fasted. They say, and thou seest not, wherefore we have afflicted our soul. So, like I said, that's how you afflict your soul, by fasting, have afflicted our soul. H6031, afflicted our soul, and thou hast taken no knowledge. Behold, in the day of your fast, ye find pleasure and exact all your labors. So the fasting is important. You should afflict your soul, not about trying to puff up your knowledge, and to afflict your soul, you know. Um, and you should exact all your labors. Behold, ye fast for strife. People fast for strife and debate, to smite with the fist of wickedness. Ye should not fast as ye do this day. So don't pick the Day of Atonement to fast for strife and all of that, and stuff like that. No, to make your voice to be heard on high, it shouldn't be like that. You know, you should be fasting to let your voice be a trumpet for the truth, not to be trying to debate against your brother, despite wickedness. Verse 5. Is it such a fast that I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul? The Most High actually gave us a day for us to afflict our soul, which is the Day of Atonement. Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him, to look like you're fasting? Is that you don't have to appear like you're fasting, but don't go through the mikvah either. But wash your face, look okay. And thou call this a fast and an acceptable day of the Lord. People, you look like you're lamenting. You don't have to look like you fasting just to fast. Is not this the fast that I have chosen to lose the band of wickedness? So you should choose this fast to lose the band of it, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free. And that ye break every yoke. So now when we next year, when we coming up on the Day of Atonement, we got to make sure we fasting for these things. And you can any day that you choose to fast. It don't have to be just on the Day of Atonement. Understand that this is important. Is it not to verse 7? Is it not to deal that bread to the hungry? So when you fast, feed other people. You can do that too. Or think about how can you feed other people strategically during your fast, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house when thou seest that naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide that not thyself from thy own flesh. All right. So what fasting is not just something, that you do just to say I did it. Fasting is a spiritual thing. All right. It's a spiritual thing. And it's actually an atoning thing. That's why you don't need to go through the mikvah doing fasting. You don't need to go through the mikvah during the Day of Atonement because you're already atoning yourselves. Baptism is another type of atoning. All right. But on the Day of Atonement, you don't have to go through the mikvah, but wash your face. You know, don't present yourself to men as fasting. You know what I'm saying? But look okay, but you don't have to go through the mikvah, wash all your clothes and look all nah. You don't have to do all that, but you don't have to appear to men in sackcloths and all this looking crazy either. You know? So that's the understanding, of the Day of Atonement and how the Ebionites celebrated it. Because the Ebionites, they took the day of fasting important. It's all through the Dead Sea Scrolls. They took this day as something important to them because it's a holy day. All right. Now, shalom, and I hope this was edifying, and have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of the Feast of Tabernacles. Enjoy the seventh month and pray and watch, and let's keep on praying and watching for our friends, our families, and let's see prophecies unfold in these times. Let's see it.